Welcome back to another You Are Happy uh, episode of the You Are Happy show with Melanie Wakirka, which is a part of the World of Ability podcast network. And we have a special guest today named Amy. Um, so I'm going to pass it over to Melanie to get started and introduce Amy and learn all about what Amy does today.
You got it. Hey, everybody. I am Melanie. I am your happy girl. I am brand ambassador with Amari Global, and today is International Happiness Day. So what a perfect day to have Amy on, because when I met Amy through HNP, it was so exciting because I am your happy girl, and she is the joy girl, right? So she helps bring joy. I help bring happy to people's lives, and she helps bring joy to people's lives. And how she does that is she does it through her coaching. She has this incredible story on how she has beaten cancer, how she did not let cancer hold her back from what she's doing. And then she moved into coaching. And the aspect and how she coaches is unique because it comes from a place of really happiness and finding happiness, because she had to find it herself, because the journey that she went on is not an easy journey. It was a very rough journey, but she wants other people to realize that you can find joy in no matter what you do. So Amy, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you here today. So tell me a little bit about yourself. And we said that you went on a journey, and I didn't exactly explain it too much, but how did that journey, you can explain the journey a little bit, bring you into the coaching realm of what you're doing?
Right? So it's really funny. A lot of times when people find out that I am a cancer survivor, there's an automatic assumption that I started my company, Pure Joy Life Coaching, after going through my cancer journey. And ironically enough, it was actually created just a little over 6 months, like 8 months before I was diagnosed. So it was an incredible like a fork in the road where I had to decide. I've been diagnosed with stage 2 cancer, but I also have like this baby company that I have created that I want to be out here serving. And I have to take a pause and serve myself and get through cancer treatments, right? So actually at the beginning of starting coaching and putting myself out in the world to be able to serve others, I had to take a pause and really take care of myself. I think going through that process definitely added to what the perspectives that I bring to the table for my clients, right? Hopefully I can help others learn how to create balance in their life and reclaim their joy without going through the crap that I went through.
Hopefully,
that would be
right?
ideal. Let's learn this lesson the easy way, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes. That was so not an easy thing, because your cancer was very hard to detect. It was a very hard journey, and luckily you are still with us. Yeah, and that was a big thing, as we talked about too. Mm-hmm. So I would like to go. So you mentioned joy, and today is happiness, right? Yeah. So a lot of people, do they come to you when they're unhappy? When do you need a coach like you?
Right. So maybe not unhappy, but I think unfulfilled is probably a really good word. And I think if we stay in that unfulfilled state long enough, we definitely start to lose our joy. We may be able to create little blips of it here and there that keep us going, but really feeling like a deeper day-to-day joy and peace with our life. Those are usually when my clients start to reach out to me.
Yeah. So you mentioned unfulfilled. So if I wasn't somebody that knew anything about coaching, what am I looking for to need somebody like you? Because I know that, I deal with a lot of depression, people with depression, anxiety, different aspects that Amari takes care of. But the supplements can only take care of so much.
Sure.
Right?
Absolutely.
You can still, you mentioned unfulfilled and stuck.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can keep, even though you're on a supplement that takes care of anxiety and stress,
Yeah.
you can go backwards and
For sure.
forwards
Absolutely.
to unfulfilled and stuck. So
Yes.
explain a little bit more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, for someone who's never used a coach before, I've used multiple coaches in my life, and have never regretted that decision. It's always nice to have someone in your corner. And I think a lot of us are very, very familiar with like sports coaches or singing coaches, or like I know a coach who coaches for cello. So, those kinds of things. It's funny because we don't really think about it for life sometimes, or it feels so vague, like I'm living my life every day. Why do I need a coach, right? So for people who have no experience in like the coaching world at all, what I try to use to kind of describe the benefit of having a coach and just kind of the role that we can play in your life is, so there's a therapist, right? And therapists are like clinically trained and licensed, and they are going to help you with the why. And actually, I have a lot of clients that have therapists and me at the same time, which is a beautiful partnership. I think that's great. They can work together very well. But the therapist is going to give you the why. So let's say that you're dating, and there's a lot of dating and relationship coaches out there, and you're just really like sucking at it, and you can't find the right person. You're really frustrated. You've got all these walls. A therapist might help you figure out like why that develops, because we don't start that way. So what happened that you created this wall, right? And a therapist can help you figure that out. A coach, on the other hand, is going to say, okay, you're going to figure out the why with the therapist, or you've already figured out the why in the past yourself or with professional help, or whatever that may look like for you. We are going to give you a how. How do you start to scale that wall? How do you start to overcome these things? How do you start to move forward without bringing all this baggage that you have into your future relationships, right? So a coach is really good at helping you execute actionable steps to move you forward to whatever that goal may be. So for me and my clients, that tends to be they are overcommitted, they are overworked, they are exhausted, they are burdened, they are doing all the things for all the people all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And they kind of don't know how to stop, because especially for high performing individuals, we get praised for all the stuff we get done. So that's this like positive reinforcement on overworking and overcommitting. So we want to do it more because it feels good and people appreciate it, and we get accolades for it. But we go home at night and we can't go to sleep. Our minds are racing. We're having to take a pill to fall asleep. We got in a fight with our partner. We didn't have time to cuddle with our kid because we were so exhausted. We just needed to put them to bed and have some peace, and that's how all of that like manifests kind of behind the scenes. And nobody really sees that. But it affects our mind, it affects our body, it affects our relationships when we are giving so much to other people and we neglect to give to ourselves. And so it can be hard, especially with the line of coaching that I do. Most of my clients are coming to me for this reason. I can help with anything, but this is the primary thing that people hire me for, because you have to be self-aware enough to say, this sucks and I don't like this anymore. You have to be vulnerable enough to say, I need help because I can't sustain this, and I am one commitment away from crashing and burning, right? But when you get your compliments that way and you get your accolades that way and you get supported for doing all those things, it can be really hard to admit that like you are on a train that is out of control and you don't know how to stop it. So it can take a little bit of vulnerability to say, hey, I need help. But that's why it's good that I have client confidentiality agreements, so I don't tell anyone your business. You can come into my safe space and no one will know.
Yeah, we mentioned that it's okay to cry. I mentioned it before.
Oh yeah.
Because that's something that like I grew up with. Is you don't cry,
yes.
Suck it up.
Yes.
Something that I self-awareness, and that's how Mari comes in handy, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You can it's easier to open up to somebody when your stress and anxiety is not causing so much chaos inside your body.
Right.
But there's something that you mentioned too is burnout.
Yeah.
Burnout can be a horrible thing.
Oh gosh, it's the worst.
But why is it the worst? Because a lot of people do it, but they're just dealt with it because either they're stuck financially to where they have to, or sometimes they don't even realize.
Oh yeah. Actually, I think that's like nail on the head. You don't realize. It's not until something happens and you take the step back that you're like, holy crap, like this is not healthy. But when this is your norm, you don't know any better. Right? Like you don't know that like this is too much when this is what you give every day because it feels like it's the norm of what you're supposed to do, right? So I used to work at this corporate company and I was working 60 hours a week. I had a team of 30 some odd staff, like 32 staff. And someone asked me one day, like, tell me what your job description is. And I was my response to my job description was fire putter outer. Like that was, if you needed to give me a title, I was fire putter outer. That's what I did. And I lived day to day putting out other people's fires. I felt like that is all I did. Their personal crises, their professional crises. I was doing it all. And that was just my norm. If anybody asked me, how are you doing? I would be like, great. Because I might like, spend time with my spouse at the end of the evening and watch TV together for an hour. So I felt like I had capacity in my life. Right. And it wasn't until I went through cancer. And this is where this really like, sometimes it really takes something big to like take the scales off your eyes. So I was diagnosed with stage 3 cancer and just, one little nugget of a story through my journey. But I got chemo. I did 4 months of dose-dense chemo and didn't take a day off, not one single day. I was hooked up. I had my port here and I was hooked up to the chemo machine on video calls like this, doing meetings on Zoom while I was receiving chemo. And I was saving up my days. A lot of the staff had offered to donate their leave for me so that I could be off and not work, and the company wouldn't allow it. So they said no. So I was banking these days for my mastectomy because it was a really intense mastectomy. And I called my boss and I said, okay, I've got these 4 weeks, two weeks that I just had already, and then 2 weeks that I could use that I had banked. And I said, I want to take 4 weeks off. And I kid you not, this is real. And I actually love this human, but it just was a reflection of like the toxic environment I was in. So I have 2.5 feet of scars across my chest. I had what's called a modified radical non-skin sparing double mastectomy. So all of the skin was up. They scraped down to my muscle fascia and my pectoral muscles. They removed 7 pounds of tissue. It was intense. It was a 4-hour surgery. And her response to me was, are you sure that you need all 4 weeks off? I had a friend who had a boob job, but she only took a week. I had just done 4 months of chemo on camera in meetings, didn't take a single day off while I was sick. And that was her response to me. And that to me, as horrible as that was a really big light bulb of this is not okay. This is not healthy. I am living in a state of burnout. Legally, I could go take FMLA and be off for 12 weeks and still have a job to come back to. Like I was entitled to that time. And I was just trying and striving to not have anyone around me feel impacted by my own cancer journey because I needed to continue to show up and serve. And that was a turning point for me. That conversation was a turning point for me in my journey. So
I'm kind of scratching my head because it
was wild.
Well, yeah, but that is also the definition of toxic environment.
Oh gosh, totally.
That is the definition of, well, first off, did you leave that toxic environment after that? Or did you stay in the toxic environment?
No, I left. I finished my cancer treatment, and it was at a school. I was an assistant principal at a school, and I finished the school year because I did not want to leave my families and my students hanging. So I finished that school year, and I resigned and went full time into Pure Joy after that.
Okay. Because that's kind of what I was getting to, because, you know, I know that most people like myself have been in toxic environments before, whether it be personal relationships, which, you know, you build a business, but, you know, even if you have this like perfect job, but you have a toxic home environment, that can affect, or vice versa. Can affect you. So when you're coaching somebody through a toxic, and I keep looking at the time, so make sure you respect your time here.
You're right.
When you're coaching somebody through a toxic environment, what does that look like? Are you giving them exercises to do? Are you giving them advice? Are you, you know, because a lot of people think that like a coach tells you what to do. So can you explain that route just a little?
Absolutely. Okay. So I love to describe myself as your unbiased best friend. So I am going to tell you the things that you need to hear, not the things that you want to hear, right? I'm also an Aquarius, so I'm just like a super straight shooter. Like you're going to get the truth from me, like unadulterated. You're going to hear what it is. Okay. So I'm going to give you that. However, I have to say that the impact that you have inside, where you would arrive at your own decisions and your own conclusions, will be far more powerful than anybody telling you something, right? So it is my job to guide and facilitate your thought processes, your change, and your goals. Not my job to tell you what to do, right? Now, I can say to you from my perspective and on the outside, I can see how this may work better for you. But at the end of the day, you're the one who has to go home and do it. So you get to make that choice on whether or not you want to accept that advice or not. I am not a perfect human, you know? So I am going to give you some input and some perspective. When we're talking about making changes, it is not it is simple, it is not easy. And there is a distinction, right? It is simple, but it is not easy. So we may even, most of my clients do 6 months to a year with me. And we may start in that first month and you learn everything that you need to do to make the changes that you need to make. It's going to take the other 5 months to make those changes. Right? You're going to backslide. You're going to forget. You're going to get overwhelmed. You're going to get frustrated because you didn't reach your goals as fast as you wanted to. You're going to revert back to what you used to do when you had a really hard week and your, you know, something bad happens, right? Like, so all of that is normal, like human life. So part of my role is also being an accountability partner, and saying, hey, remember when we talked about this? Let's make sure that we circle back to that. That was your homework last week. I know that you didn't do it this week. It's fine, but it needs to be done by the end of the month to make sure that you're on track for your progress, right? So just like a sports coach who would say, I see you running and your form is not on point, right? I can give you the tips and tell you how to adjust and make things to make your performance better, but you're the one that's actually running the track, right? So you've got to get out there and learn how to make those changes and execute that. I'm going to be on the sidelines cheering you on and holding you accountable to those changes. So absolutely, you get action items almost every single week. Absolutely, you get advice, but you also get the perspectives, the accountability, and the encouragement that come along with that as well.
So a big thing, 2 things here. It says I wrote down, I gotta read my handwriting here, right? So a lot of people come because they know that they may need help, but they don't think they're gonna get it.
Oh yeah.
And another one is self-sabotage.
Oh, that's my favorite. That's my favorite. Absolutely. There will always be times where clients are like on the roll for like the first 2 weeks and then they're like, yeah, I'm just not doing that anymore. Or yeah, I didn't do that. Or yeah, I forgot that. That's the accountability piece, right? I can see that. And that's when some of those hard discussions end up happening. A lot of it boils down to habits, routines, and patterns that we're used to. And listen, you know, the way that our brains work and our brains are wired is that we have this pathway in our brain that is used to doing what it's used to doing.
Right.
And it keeps us safe, right? Its whole function is to keep us safe. So if we do what we've known, it's it's ultimately going to be safer than the unknown, even if that is unhealthy. If you have children that are raised in abusive houses, they're going to seek out abusive relationships because it's safe. It's what they know. In fact, a healthy relationship would feel not okay because it's not what they know. It's not their comfort zone, right? So as we change these behaviors, it's going to feel not okay. So we're doing it on our own. We're going to stop because it feels not okay. So my dog, I have a Great Dane. I would bring him in here for you to see him, but he is insane. And so he has, it wouldn't work out well. He has a lap that he runs in our backyard, and the grass doesn't even grow there anymore because he's run it, right? And we recently made a change to the backyard, and I kid you not, this dog, he always goes out the back steps and he launches, because he's 105 pounds, he launches off the top of the steps, and his favorite thing is to chase squirrels, and he's never gotten one, but I know in his mind, one day he's going to get a squirrel. So he launches off and he runs this little path to try and get the squirrels. Well, we made some changes, and there's something that's now in that path. Homeboy ran straight into it. It's huge.
That's not supposed to be there.
And he wasn't even paying attention. He knows his path. He knows his route. So his butt launched off 105 pounds of fury going after a squirrel and ran smack into that new little structure that we have there. So we do exactly the same thing. Okay, I'm going to learn a new thing. Well, what do I do when I actually start to execute it? I launch off and I go through the path that I know, and now something's changed and I run into it. And when I run into it, it doesn't feel good. And I want to go back to what I know. It took him weeks, going out 3 or 4 times a day to not run into God bless him, I love my dog. But it took him weeks to not run into it, you know? So as humans, it's going to take us time as well as we create new pathways in our brain to do new things. It is simple to go around it, but it's not easy when we only know one thing. And that's where I can be there on the steps with you saying, hey, watch out for that thing. Don't run into it. Remember, we talked about this. Go around. Oh, yeah, that's right. I want to do this differently this time. And then as you do that path more and more, you create even better pathways on a healthy situation that will ultimately and eventually feel comfortable and good.
Now, is this done through weekly calls, or do you text message them through the week, or how do you work as a coach?
Yeah, so we do weekly calls on Zoom. So we'll meet on Zoom. I do have some clients that prefer to meet in person. If they're local, we can do that too, but I have clients all over. And a lot of my local ones even prefer Zoom. So we meet weekly on Zoom, and we just pick up wherever your needs are. Again, it's usually 6 months to a year, because that is what I can have the time that I can guarantee that we can walk you through the things you need to do, and you will leave coaching 100% and hopefully never need me again. It's my job to get rid of clients.
And how do people get a hold of you? Because you have a doctor's appointment.
I do. Sorry, I gotta go to the hospital, right?
Anytime.
Okay, absolutely. So I Pure Joy Life Coaching on all social media channels. Amy at purejoylifecoaching.com is my email. And that's also the website, purejoylifecoaching.com.
Well, Amy, it has been an absolute joy to have you on here.
Thank you.
Get it? Joy to have you on here.
I love it.
Happiness day.
Yes,
if you don't remember Amy's information, you can always message me as well at youarehappygirl.com. And thank you so much. I hope your doctor's appointment was absolutely wonderful. I appreciate you being on the show, and I appreciate you because you sure do bring joy to people's lives. Okay.
You as well. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, everybody. Until next week, contact Amy if you have any questions.
Bye.
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 Recording stopped.
Yay, thank you, Amy. All right, get to your appointment. You did